I have loved Jack White. I found out about him. He is just absolutely iconic in how he blends a number of disparate elements together in order to absolutely break up any idea of a genre and kind of blender everything together.
Yeah. The reason why we're talking about Jack White, as Honey was illustrating to us, is that we believe he is one of the saviors of rock and roll. Um, Many things have been said of the death of rock and roll. But like that old saying goes, rumors of rock and roll's death have been greatly exaggerated, in my opinion. And I believe that Jack White is proof of this.
One of the things that you had brought up was how initially you really kind of weren't into them. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Because I think that's important.
Right. So Honey is guiding us to the beginning, where most of folks heard of Jack White through his excellent band, the White Stripes, with his ex-wife, Meg White, the talented drummer. And as Honey brought up before, when I first heard the White Stripes, I didn't dig it. Like at the time, I think I was like, when did that first big single hit, Honey?
I really can't tell you with specifics because I wasn't paying super close attention, trying to work so hard, undergrad, graduate school, hustle to get a job. I did all those things. I didn't make my discovery until 2002. And in 2002, when I did make my discovery, I immediately started proselytizing and trying to share the joy with everyone that I knew.
So I feel like my first exposure to them was the song Dead Leaves and the Dirty Ground that came out in 2002.
Dead Leaves and the Dirty Ground.
Does that sound right?
Well, I know you're not around.
Yeah. And what was the other one? Fell in Love with a Girl, right?
Fell in Love with a Girl.
That's okay. Now I remember that is the first White Stripes song that I heard. And I didn't get it. I'm just going to be honest. At the time, in 2002, I was like really into extreme metal, death metal, black metal, grindcore, and like I think the type of rock and roll they were doing was like the antithesis of what extreme metal was doing at the time. And so, of course, being like most what you would say stuck up elitist metalheads, my nose turned up at the rawness, the weird punk rock simplicity of what the White Stripes was doing. And like a lot of and I'm a drummer, and like a lot of drummers, I believe I dismissed Meg White in particular unfairly. And so yeah, I really wasn't into it. Now, it didn't stay that way. I could hear things that I liked about Jack White's guitar work right away, but I think Meg White's drumming initially is what turned me.
And that's a popular thing. Like, I myself was having a classic Mean Girl response. Being in my 20s and being very enculturated to see other women as everyone's my enemy, like we're all constantly in never-ending competition, and oh my God, here's this beautiful girl with this, exceptionally talented guy who they really okay, so I'm from Los Angeles, and I totally very much looked out and growing up in the garage band era of backyard gigs and spending endless amounts of time seeing live music. I was so lucky, right? And it kind of reminded me of that, but then it had the polish of something more than that. And then the way that they decided to market themselves was just like absolutely brilliant. But anyways, I need to go back to like my personal thing of I also looked down on Meg White, and we were all like my friends and I were like, oh shit, we could probably do that, right? Like, and by the way, I was also dating a drummer who also looked down on that, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
there was a lot of criticism.
Right. But I feel like there was, and I think I can say that for myself too, there was a bit of a haterness with me because, again, so here is this band with a drummer playing very simplistic throwback rock and roll. And at that time, there was that big resurgence of like garage bands, like, the Strokes come to mind. Um, there were lots of other bands. I don't know if you can think about it right now. Of course, I am blanking out. Um, but I do remember, because I was living in San Francisco at the time, going to school, and I do remember there were a lot of rock bands. I had friends in these cool like resurgent rock bands that were like old school. I mean, I remember one of the reasons why the Strokes, I liked them right away
Oh yeah,
because
me too.
they sounded like Tom Petty. And even then, I wouldn't admit that I liked Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers because it
Oh,
wasn't cool to be a metal guy and like bands like that, but I always liked Tom Petty. And I just wouldn't admit it. But the Strokes, like they lifted like some beats and some riffs from them. But the White Stripes did not. I mean, it's not like the type of music that Jack White was referencing in the White Stripes. I mean, obviously there was some garage punk, but a lot of it was like these blues things that people our age, we weren't listening to, like Howlin' Wolf or anything like that. I mean, not too
um,
many. I mean, do you?
I listened to a lot of music, but then
Mm,
I was very fortunate again to grow up in a household with,
right,
an old man for a father who was
right,
very much like into the bleeding edge of different ways to listen to music. So we had so many different mediums of like, we had 8 tracks, like
right.
an entire trunk filled with 8 tracks, and we could listen to them in the car, we could listen to them in the living room, and we had a big open living room plan with a huge covered porch, and my dad would put on a bunch of music, drink way too much beer, eat some kind of
Yeah,
inappropriate food, and invite friends over often.
yeah. You're
So
actually
I
in
had
this.
a lot of exposure.
We wrap it up.
Thank you so much for coming to hang out
Yeah,
with us on the nerdy side with Honey and Spanky.
yeah,
And we are just so happy to be able to get nerdy with
yeah,
you and hope that you will please feel inspired to like, share, comment, subscribe, and maybe even buy us a coffee.
yeah. We're having a great time doing this, and we appreciate everybody listening to it and everybody who's watched it, our video clips on YouTube. We'd like to keep doing it, and we'd appreciate you know any support you can give us, like subscriptions to our YouTube page. Follow us on Buy Me a Coffee if you feel like you can. Throw us a couple bucks. We understand that times aren't great economically, but any support we can get would be great from you. And thank you again for listening and watching us.
Thank you so much. We can't wait to visit again.